On this episode of Java with Jawas, the Oscars are done. George Lucas wins.
Hey guys, welcome to Java with Jawas, the Star Wars show where we drink coffee and talk Star Wars.
Yes.
We are celebrating the Oscars that just wrapped up this Sunday. We're celebrating our own kind of Star Wars way. We're going to go through our Oscar categories, but we're replacing all the normal stuff with Star Wars stuff.
Absolutely. And today we're sipping on Cuppa. This is roasted in Arlington, Texas. Listen, this is air roasted. So if you haven't Googled air roasted coffee, you got to go Google it. Cuppa's fantastic. You can order it online or you can get it at a couple of their shops in DFW. But Cuppa's amazing. So that's what we're sipping today. Some Ethiopian Yirgacheffe.
Yirgacheffe.
It always just makes me feel weird. Is like they're a Russian dictator in Ethiopia that I don't know about?
Yeah, I don't know. But coffee to me, if it has a weird name, it's probably going to be better than
True that.
Christmas blend.
All right, so walk me through what we're doing here. What's this?
All right, we're taking the categories that you would normally hear in the Oscars, and we are Star Wars-fying them.
Okay, so best picture, best
actor,
right,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we're just going to go through these. It's going to be a little special episode, just as we celebrate the Oscars with all you guys out there.
Let's do it.
All right, so first off, best animated series.
I've watched Clone Wars, almost all of it. I'm now all the way caught up on Resistance, and I finally have dug into Rebels, and I finished season 1. And I got to tell you, Rebels wins. It's a brilliant show, and the characters are great in all of the animated series, and the storylines are great. But I think Rebels is more artistic visually. I see a lot of symmetry, a lot of really well composed shots, and so I give it the win for that.
So you think the story's up there?
I think. I'm only in season 1, but I think the story is probably more emotional than all the others.
Okay. Well, I picked Clone Wars. I have not seen Rebels or Resistance. So Clone Wars is the only thing I have to kind of go off of. But so far, Clone Wars, it's a huge saga. I mean, there's what, six seasons?
Yeah.
They'll be having their 7th season coming up.
7th season coming.
So, I mean, there's so many stories. I feel like the art style is in a sweet spot. It's not too cartoony, not too kiddie, but yet not too adult. I think it fits right in there. So I'm gonna have to give this one a Clone Wars.
There's a both can win because Clone Wars is just really epic. It's really long, but yeah. Anyways.
All right. So let's see if you have one for this one. Best costume, and I'm just gonna say which, as you figure out what costume. Which character?
Well, I already figured it out, Felipe. You told me beforehand everything.
What? You're not supposed to know that.
I've already made my decisions. These are well thought out, people. Okay.
Yes. All right. So best costume.
I went with Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi. Now, little known fact, but maybe well known fact, Darth Vader's costume actually changes from film to film to film. They make small little improvements and differences. And I picked Return of the Jedi Darth Vader.
It's because of sheen, the glossiness?
No, I think it was a bit more glossy actually in Empire and definitely in Revenge of the Sith. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, when his armor is like brand new, it's like glistening. Yeah. I liked Return of the Jedi Darth Vader. First of all, Darth Vader's like...
That's a pretty good one, yeah.
The helmet is just so iconic and scary. I had to give it to Darth Vader.
Good.
I went with Return of the Jedi because... you get to see his costume in action a little bit more in the final battle. And you know what I really loved is that they captured the man behind the monster. At the end, you see his helmet come off and you see Anakin, and the costume people just really nailed that kind of key transition for me.
Yeah, you definitely picked a good one. I did not pick the same, but thinking about yours, I mean, they created a costume that became so iconic throughout generations. Even people who aren't even Star Wars fans, they can see that costume and go Darth Vader. That's good. I kind of went a different note on that. I was thinking more wardrobe, clothing, female. So I was going Queen Amidala from The Phantom Menace.
Oh man, I thought about her, dude.
The first, outfit she's wearing with the red, like long. I mean, we went so long without Star Wars. Costume. And then we start, you see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and take it or like it or not, the movie, and that costume that she's wearing in the beginning of the film is pretty epic. Pretty awesome.
It is. Yeah. And that was definitely on my list.
And the lights that are glowing on there. Actually, one of the little funny things, if you go back and watch it, you can see the extension cable that's going from her dress to the wall to plug in her. When she's standing by that window on what's the planet? Help me with this one.
Naboo?
Naboo, yeah. When she's on Naboo looking out the window, you can totally see a little cable.
That's hilarious.
Pretty funny. But, all right. Next, best supporting actress.
Oh, okay. Best supporting actress.
Best supporting actress.
I went with Natalie Portman.
Okay.
And she's almost a main character. I really struggle. Is she a
Right.
supporting actress? But I felt like she is because the story is really about, in the prequels, Anakin and
Right.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, Natalie Portman, if she was a main character, she almost could have won Best Actress, period. She did an amazing job with
What
Batman.
movie do you think out of the prequels? What movie do you think she did the best in?
The last one, The
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
The being in love with this man and then being completely torn apart as he chooses the dark side. I thought
Anakin,
she
you're
nailed
breaking
it.
my heart. You're going down a path I just can't follow.
Okay, when you do a bad impersonation of her, then it's bad acting. Anyways, Natalie Portman wins Best Supporting Actress for me.
That's good. This was a hard one also because I feel like, if you go back to the prequels, you have Natalie Portman, you have Amidala. She's kind of up there as a main character. If you go to the original trilogy, you have Carrie Fisher. Is she really a main actress? Is she? So I'm going to say that was Luke's story. Luke is a main actor in those, so she's supporting actor. So I'm going to say Princess Leia or Carrie Fisher in primarily in Empire Strikes Back. I'm gonna keep it to that movie right there. I think that Carrie Fisher speaks for herself. She's a great actress.
Yeah,
but a couple of scenes that I was
actress.
thinking that really spoke out to me is I love that opening scene in Hoth, the exchange between Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, where they're going back and forth,
Yep.
and she's such a strong female character. I think that's a great scene.
She defined her whole character in that one 20-second spot.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you can tell she loves him, but then you have that great scene in the middle of it when they're on Millennium Falcon, and she's like, "My hands are dirty." That whole little interaction when they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
That's great stuff, dude. I went Carrie Fisher.
Nice. Great.
All right. Next one, Best Actress.
Best Actress, look, Daisy Ridley.
Yep.
She's owning this thing, man. She's absolutely nailing this character.
Totally.
Every line, every facial expression. She's got chops. I mean, she is really good.
And she's really proved it in The Last Jedi.
And even if we say Natalie Portman's character was a main character, even if we say Carrie Fisher's character is a main character, no matter what actress, to me, Daisy Ridley still takes it.
Yeah.
She's just doing an amazing job.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I went Daisy Ridley. And I think what really showed me was The Last Jedi. Her acting chops, be so intimate with Kylo Ren and her anger versus her, she's someone who's very approachable and you feel for her, but then she can go like that and become angry and powerful. So I picked Daisy Ridley as well.
It's such a masterful job when people add more depth than the screenplay gives.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what a good actor or actress does, and that's what she's doing.
And it's impressive for somebody who's so not well known. I mean, to take an actress
Right.
that really didn't do much before and to put her in that role. And I don't know if you watched a lot of the behind the scenes on the last on The Force Awakens, but a lot of that's J.J. Abrams coaching her, able to coach her up and get her to be better than she started, and then you just progressively see that she's going to become just an amazing actress in the future.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Okay, best original screenplay.
Empire Strikes
Yep,
Back.
right there.
I almost gave it to The Last Jedi, and
Right.
people will disagree with that. But The Last Jedi, I think, is a really, really, really good screenplay with some really bad problems that they didn't fix. And so I had to give it to Empire Strikes Back.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think the pacing of that movie, I think the tone of that movie, the depth of that movie, I mean, it's spot on. I think, like you said, The Last Jedi, though it has some really good stuff in it, it struggles with pacing. It struggles with a couple of, scenes that aren't needed.
It's always difficult to separate out a screenplay from a story.
Right.
And they are kind of one and the same, but they kind of aren't, And
Yeah.
I think The Empire does best of both. It has great dialogue.
Right.
It provides really great direction for the director, and then at the same time, the story of Empire Strikes Back is brilliant. I
Yeah.
mean, the reveal at the end with Darth Vader being Luke's father. And
Right, absolutely, and even all the meta Jedi stuff on Dagobah with Yoda.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we got before that movie. You didn't get all that deep diving into what the Force is and how it works, and But this you actually dove deep, and the same thing as Last Jedi. The Last Jedi dives a lot deeper than people give it credit for.
Yeah, and that's why it was up there for me.
Right.
That's why it got the honorable
Yeah.
mention. Now, if they fix up that slow-mo space chase and they do a little bit of better job on Canto Bight, maybe it wins.
Right.
But those problems were too big, too
All
glaring.
right, next one, best soundtrack.
The best soundtrack for me is The Force Awakens.
Okay.
All right. Now, John Williams did this masterful job of establishing these incredible themes, whether it's, the March of the Empire, or we're going to get into some of the musical themes here in a second. He established all of these things, and so you really could give best soundtrack to any of the prequels. I listen to the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack all the time. I love it. But what he did in The Force Awakens was something that he really didn't do very well in the prequels, which was merging the old and the new.
No, that's true.
And he kind of did it a little bit in the prequels, but what he did in The Force Awakens with writing these new beautiful melodies and harmonies and themes, but then still mixing in the old, I thought he just nailed it. And that's a really difficult thing to do. So I gave it to Force Awakens.
I mean, saying that, I want to change my answer now, but I went the obvious Empire Strikes Back. That's where we get the Imperial March for the first time.
Yep.
Some really, but after you saying that, man, I might lean towards what you said, but I'm gonna stick
It's
with
hard,
Empire.
man. I think most people would go with Empire.
Empire Strikes Back is what I'm going.
Most lists that I've looked at online, and I've looked at a lot of lists of best soundtrack, I'd geek out over the
Empire,
soundtrack.
yeah.
Empire wins it most of the time.
Yep.
So
Cool. All right, next we have in the same kind of vein. So, what's your favorite Star Wars song? So, best Star Wars song.
Yeah, I love Rey's theme in the newer ones, but I have to give it to Binary Sunset. It's the Force theme.
Yeah.
It is what carries the good part of the story. You see it in the animated series.
Right.
You see it all through the whole saga. You see it even in I don't know. Did you see? We didn't see much Force in Rogue One or Solo, so maybe you don't hear the theme.
No, you
in
don't hear
those.
any of those.
But yeah, I gave it to Binary Sunset. So
Yeah, that's a good one. Good. I was going between that, Rey's theme, and then even Yoda's theme.
Yoda's theme is very popular.
Pretty awesome.
Yep.
But I went with Rey's. I think that maybe it's because it's fresh, but that bum ba da dum bum bum. It's just.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you start to hear those notes, man, you know what's another one I didn't even think about until now is Duel of Fates.
Duel of Fates that's an epic.
That is
epic.
great. I think that encompasses all of the prequels.
Yeah.
You hear that and you're like, okay, that's a prequels. That's Darth Maul.
There's a new generation of Star Wars fans with the little kids, and I have to tell you, my son, whenever he's playing around the house, whether he's playing Star Wars or not, he's singing the Resistance theme, the new Resistance theme. I can't even think of it. But yeah, so
that's funny.
It's a testament to John Williams and his greatness.
Yeah, because we're walking around going boom, 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 and they're singing.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's what my kid is singing like all the time.
That's funny. That's
that
really
in
funny
Jurassic Park. So John Williams owns my kid's head.
That's awesome. All right, so moving into actors, best supporting actor.
I gave it to Ian McDiarmid. He played Palpatine. Yeah.
So, old Palpatine, new Palpatine. So original trilogy or prequels?
Prequels.
Okay.
I gave it to him for the prequels. Seeing that transition, that was he didn't transition in his heart. He was always this evil in his heart, but there was this the circumstances that he was shifting, and you get to see how his character changed as it's winning. I mean, he's winning in the prequels, minute by minute by minute, from the very first Trade Federation encounter on Naboo to the very end, whenever he turns Anakin into Darth Vader. He is slowly winning at every turn. And it's just really interesting to see how Ian McDiarmid was able to capture this smug confidence that no one else in the script, in the story, knew what was going on. But as viewers, we know what's happening. And I just love the way he played Palpatine.
Yeah. That's great. One of the scenes that I think about that kind of proves his acting chops as Palpatine is the great scene in Episode 3 when he's talking to Anakin about Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
Remember I told you about Darth Plagueis the Wise? Just exactly. He's talking about himself the whole time. He's talking about him, being that apprentice. That's greatness. Totally great. I actually went a different direction. I went with Adam Driver. I went with Kylo Ren. And I actually picked The Force Awakens for that one.
As a supporting actor. Okay.
Yeah. So
explain that to me, because isn't he a main character?
Well, he's not the main. I think Rey is the main character of The Force Awakens.
Okay, I'm not going to push you too hard on it because we're going to get to Best Actor in a second. I feel like you're going to push back on me for my pick.
I think that though the movies, he's a lot like Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher of the prequels, where they're a big role in the movie, but they're not the main part of the movie.
Yeah,
the main point is Rey. Rey is the main character of the series. I don't know if you can have a dual protagonist.
Rey and Finn, I would say, are the main characters.
Right. Well, I would still say Rey.
Just because you look at just the number of lines that Finn gets.
Right.
And it follows him, it follows him quite a lot.
But I wouldn't consider, especially in The Force Awakens, I would not consider Kylo Ren or Adam Driver being the main actor of the movie. I think the main actor absolutely is Rey, and then he's a supporting actor. But his acting chops in that movie are great. Yeah, they think
he's a great actor for sure.
Because he's such a great supporting actor that sometimes you feel like maybe he should be the main actor of the whole series.
Yeah, it's tricky with Adam Driver because I think people in The Force Awakens were really unhappy with the way he played Kylo Ren. And then they saw some of his other work outside of Star Wars and realized, oh, wow, this guy can seriously act. And then they realized it was the Kylo Ren character that they don't like.
I didn't see that, man. I saw so much. I like the angst.
I remember speaking with you when The Force came out, The Force Awakens came out, and you really did appreciate his acting. I did too. I'm just echoing what I heard. And the Kylo Ren character, nobody's crazy about because he's just not evil enough. He's immature, he's unstable. And I think a lot of people may put that on Adam Driver. But I think it's Adam Driver playing the character exactly as he's intended to be.
It connected with me completely. I felt like they were going for this kind of, like you said, this character that was immature, but also had this kind of unpredictability to him, and that's why his lightsaber looked the way it did. That's why he went off like crazy, and people were kind of like, "Who's this crazy dude?" I think that's exactly what he was. The most intriguing character he is the most intriguing character, I think, of this new trilogy.
I would agree with
so
that.
far. I mean, he has the most, I think, depth and his motives and stuff, like where he came from, what he's doing, why he's doing, where his anger lies, and I think he's an intriguing character, so I put him as best supporting.
Great. All right.
Okay, so best actor.
I went Harrison Ford.
Oh, wow.
See, and this is why I didn't argue with you too much on supporting actors versus main characters.
That's interesting.
Because Harrison Ford, I think by most people's standards, would count as a supporting actor.
Right.
But for me, from the moment he's introduced, he carries the story, and he honestly, he's way more interesting to watch than the other actors and the other characters in the story. You see him in Empire Strikes Back, and I care more about Han than I do about Luke. To be perfectly honest, I want to know what's happening with Han. And then the way he came back in the final trilogy in The Force Awakens and ended that character, you see the angst as a father who's lost his son. Yeah. I thought Harrison Ford, he was the most enjoyable part of the first trilogy. I felt, Star Wars is meant to be this swashbuckling adventure.
Right, so he definitely feels that.
And I think he's the one that really carries that for me. So
mine, I went with Mark Hamill, and specifically for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill in The Last Jedi. I think that some of his dialogue and lines and the depth of the Force that he's giving to Rey, and in that last scene, the way he kind of leaves us. I think it's an Oscar-worthy role.
Yeah, Mark Hamill, I think gets my award for most improved actor.
from the first New Hope.
He was flat terrible in A New Hope.
I don't know about terrible, but
I'll say not only terrible but flat terrible. If that's worse, I don't know. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, masterful performance in The Last Jedi.
I think people opened their eyes and they were like, "Man, Mark Hamill can act."
His voice acting, I think, really changed him as an actor.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because, the way he owns that character, it was fantastic.
I saw that and I was like, man, this guy needs a resurgence. He needs some more roles and more movies.
Before we get into these last two on this list, did you want to do visual effects?
Oh, sure. Let's throw that in there.
Let's talk this. Let's talk visual effects. What did you give it to?
Let's see. Best visual effects. I'm going to say that one has this. Okay, this is a tough one because
we struggled with this one.
Every Star Wars movie has excellent visual effects. If you go to the practical side or the CG side.
They're the trendsetters from the very beginning.
I would, even though there's newer movies that have better technology, I'm going to have to give this one to Episode 3. Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. I'm going to have to go with that one. Mainly because there's just so much visual effects in it. So much. From that opening scene of Anakin and those little droid bots that are all over his ship and attacking him to... the scene on
the Star Destroyer crashing down. Incredible
the
scene.
The epic battle of him and Obi-Wan on
at the end of Mustafar.
Mustafar, yeah. That's great. The way they're like swinging and the fire and every bit of that movie has like tons of visual effects in it.
Yeah, you're watching that final fight and you forget that they didn't go to some active volcano to film this. Because it's just that good. Yeah. You really feel like they're fighting on
Right.
top of
And
a
I know,
lava
I know a
river.
lot of people have pushed back on the fact that George Lucas did so much CG.
He did way too much.
And he didn't do any,
There's no doubt.
any practical like sets and stuff. And that movie especially was all green screen. All
Yeah, it was a lot of green screen.
All green screen. I know he gets pushed back, but if he wouldn't have pushed that envelope, I don't think we would have the movies we're having now. Like
That's exactly right.
Like
You know,
Lion King and Mowgli and all these movies that we have that have all these special effects and visual effects in them. If he wouldn't have pushed that envelope. So I think watching it recently, it still holds up. I think it still looks good. The visual effects still look good, and there's just so many layers of visual effects.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's fun to see how the technology progressed from the Phantom Menace all the way to
Right.
Revenge of the Sith, because the Phantom Menace CG was pretty terrible.
Yeah, and it had a lot of practical effects in that as well.
Yeah, and so to see that progression was nice. But to your point about how they pioneered, I gave it to Empire Strikes Back. Because they took some really cool things that they did in A New Hope, but on a low budget.
Okay.
And then they suddenly had this huge budget, and they really perfected the art of filming miniatures, of creating laser blasts, of nailing down how do we make a lightsaber look on screen. And they established so many things on the visual effects side of things in Empire Strikes Back that I gave that one. They built the walkers. You know,
Yeah.
that entire Battle of Hoth was brilliantly done from a visual standpoint. So
That's true, man.
I give it to that.
That is the leap from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back was a big leap, man. Seeing even the old school, not the special, not the special edition ones, but the very old school fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, man, those lightsabers, they weren't even being tracked on, right? They look so janky. And then you go to Empire Strikes Back and you have what are those things called? A tauntaun being cut open and like the guts being spilled out, and like you said earlier, Han dropping into the carbonite. And,
We get to see a Dagobah. The jungle scene, all of that.
Yeah, and even the X-wing floating down and like being brought back up by Yoda, and
I think it's understated that when Luke went into the cave and had his showdown with the dark side of the Force, these movies were made in the late 70s and early 80s, and it was so easy back then to go to a really creepy place like a Kubrick type of place, and they didn't do that. They made something visually that's more approachable and was simplified, and I really appreciated that, because man, if they would have gone to a weird place, I don't think I would have liked it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're spot on with that one. Yeah, cool.
Best director?
All right, best director. You go first. I'm gonna go second.
Okay, I gave it to George Lucas for A New Hope.
Okay.
He pioneered what this thing is. It was all in his brain. He pulled it out of his brain and he got everyone to buy into it. And he directed what is actually a really great film. Like, you go watch the first half of A New Hope before it gets kind of cheesy in the end with the taking down the Death Star. But I said it.
Oh my goodness.
But everything on Tatooine, all of this is actually some really, really solid filmmaking. But besides that, he built this thing and he did it on A New Hope. So I gave it to George Lucas for the very first one.
I was thinking about going to Empire Strikes Back, but I decided to go with good old J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams, he was my honorable mention.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams had a big task ahead of him. He had people's hatred of the prequels, people's love for the original trilogy, and then having to bring this to a new generation.
Yeah,
that's a hard task. And knowing that people, we live in this generation of Twitter and being able to, social media attack people, and he had to brace all that and create a story that could last through a trilogy. And I think he did a great job of bringing it back, the nostalgia, but also giving us Star Wars to a new audience and a new generation.
Yeah,
I think he nailed it and he established it, and we'll wait to see what this third one is like. But I think for The Force Awakens, I give it to J.J. Abrams.
Sure, I don't know. I can't argue with that for all the reasons that you said. Okay.
Last.
Wait, I need a sip.
All right, best picture. The best picture goes to
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
It's just the best one.
It is.
You can watch through the entire saga. You can pick apart every single movie, and at the end, you're going to find a lot of problems with the prequels. Although there's some good stuff. There may be overly hated, but very problematic movies. A New Hope has its problems.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi comes off as a money grab at times.
I don't know about all that, but
Come on,
Has
you
some
know
scenes in it.
the only reason they made the Ewoks
All right.
was to make money.
Okay, no, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. There's some great points. I think the battle, the end battle between Luke and Darth Vader is incredible. That's my favorite battle of all times.
If that was the whole movie, great. But there's a lot
Return
more
of
to
the
that
Jedi.
movie to Return of the Jedi.
Right,
than
but
that.
to your point, there's issues with it. It's not a money grab.
There
Money
were
grab
some
is a bad
really,
word. It's a
really
wrong
bad
word.
acting moments, and I said it comes off as a money grab at times, which is absolutely the truth. There are times in that movie we were like,
I almost picked that for my favorite movie. I almost picked that as the best picture, but whatever.
look, a lot of people love it, and I make the point that they love it because of nostalgia.
I don't mind
It's
Ewoks.
not actually
I don't mind
a great
Ewoks.
movie. So, then there's The Force Awakens was a really great movie, and I think people maybe ripped it a bit too much because of how closely it followed A New
Right.
Hope. I was one of those people. I was like, look, guys, just don't put the secret information inside of a droid, for goodness sake,
Hey,
know? But it was a really good movie.
If it works, don't. Yeah.
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So, but after all of that, after all of the things I love and hate about every movie, The Empire Strikes Back has very little that I don't like, and I think most people agree with that. It's definitely the best one.
I can't think of one story beat or one element or any one scene that I just don't love. Like I can't think of it. Like I've even tried. I had a friend of mine tell me, try to find something wrong with Empire Strikes Back, an issue with like pacing or timing or storyline. I couldn't find one, man. It's a solid movie.
It's a very good movie.
It's not only the best movie, I think, of the Star Wars trilogy or sagas, but I feel like it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like it goes up there as one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
It was kind of anticlimactic.
I know everyone's going to go with Empire
Everyone's gonna go
Strikes
with Empire.
Back as the best picture. So, okay, guys, let us know what you think. Definitely jump into the comments. What did we mess up on? Where is our opinion totally off base? Let us know. Definitely subscribe and hit the like button for us. And we'll see you next time on Java with Jawas.